Hello everybody, how's it going? Welcome to another video, this week very kindly sponsored by MPB. A couple of weeks ago, somebody left a comment on one of my videos, can't remember which one, but they suggested that I should maybe iron my clothes before I film them, and now I'm a little bit self-conscious about the creases in my clothing. Not quite enough to iron them, I must admit. It's been many years since I've had an office job, and therefore I can't really remember how to iron my clothes. So I don't think it'd be fair to me or the iron to try. Anyway, believe it or not, after that intro, I do like to try at least and maintain a level of brevity in these videos. So I'll try and get to the point, shall I? A number of years back, as you'll know if you followed this channel for a while, I used to be the kind of photographer who would carry one of those big Shimoda backpacks around with me everywhere I went. I'd basically fill it with the contents of a camera shop as well. Multiple bodies, 4 or 5 lenses, a drone, filters, batteries, GoPros, a tripod, purely for video work. What else? Probably more. Just tons of stuff. And in the past couple of years, I haven't done that at all. I've completely changed tack. And in fact, the last couple of weeks I've been out shooting, this has been my bag. This is a little 2-litre sling by Peak Design. And in this, I've got a DJI Pocket Osmo, whatever it's called, a tiny little tripod for video work, some sound recording equipment, and a spare battery for my camera. And the camera, as many of you will know, is an A7R5 from Sony with a 24-50 lens on it, which hasn't come off my camera since I bought it in earlier this year. April, May, something like that. And today what I want to talk about is some of my favourite photos of the year and the fact that all of them could have been taken with this setup. In fact, most of them were, some of them weren't, but they could have been. But when I made the switch from carrying everything to carrying not much, I expected the biggest benefit to be the physical weight difference. And I mean, it is joyous not carrying around 15 kilos in a backpack. Despite the fact that one of the things I do for exercise these days is carry around 15 kilos in a backpack. Rucking, I think they call it. You basically stick a load of weights in a backpack, put a podcast on, the rest is history, typically for me. Love that podcast. But the thing is, I don't really want to carry around with me all that weight all day when I'm out taking photos. And my worry with not doing that initially was that I was going to miss out on opportunities. FOMO, basically. I thought, what happens if I rock up at a scene and see a telephoto shot and I don't have a telephoto lens with me? I mean, I'll lose my mind if that happens, because this isn't just a hobby for me, it's my job. And so if I miss shots because I don't have the right equipment with me, ultimately that's going to cost me money. The reality though, after 2 years of consistently putting myself in that position where I don't have all the equipment under the sun, the reality has been quite different. Because now, when I get to a situation where I turn up and immediately see a telephoto shot, or a wide shot, or a drone shot, I recognise that as just the first opportunity that I've seen. I used to see it as the opportunity. Now it's just the first thing I've noticed. And what follows now is me basically saying, right, I can't get that shot. What other shots are there here? And pretty much every place I've ever been where that's ever happened, there is another shot at another focal length. In fact, I think if you're somewhere photogenic or somewhere that looks interesting to you, there is a shot at basically every focal length, aside from the extremes. Perhaps not at 600mm, but within reason. And I've heard in the past camera bags being described as bags of indecision. And I can't remember where I heard that. So if that sounds familiar to you, and you know where you've heard it before, please let me know. But I think it's so true, because I see people on workshops at a scene that's constantly changing, things are happening, and they freeze with choice paralysis because they don't know whether to shoot with a telephoto, get the 24-70 out, do I need a polarizer, do I not? And so I guess what I'm trying to say is that for me at least, and other photographers that I know, minimizing my gear has been the most liberating thing for my work ever. And for me nowadays, I can get away with this, as we'll come on to when we talk about some of my favourite photos this year and what ties them together. For you, you might decide that you still need lots of different focal lengths, but perhaps you can look at your work and think to yourself, right, I don't really shoot any wider than f4, let's get rid of my f2.8 lenses. Maybe you'll look through all your favourite photos and realise that none of them are drone photos, you might get rid of your drone. Or perhaps you'll say, oh no, I didn't need a second body for any of these, I'll stop carrying my second body around with me. But whatever it is, I think it's an exercise worth doing. So what I want to do now is show you some of my favourite photos from this year. We'll look at some of the commonalities, and I did this in a video last year as well, and it was really helpful to me. Hopefully it was helpful to some of you. And by seeing those commonalities, you can then work out what it is that you want to do in terms of scouting next year, and what gear you might want to take out with you, given what your eye clearly wants. And lots of people always ask me about photography style, and I think people struggle with photography style because they don't listen to what their eye wants. They don't see what their eye wants. And yeah, all of these photos could have been shot with this camera. Most of them were. There are a couple of exceptions. I used a Micro Four Thirds camera for a couple of them. I used a Hasselblad for a couple of them because I was doing a video for Hasselblad. There are a couple of Leica shots in here. But all of them could have been shot with this camera, this lens, and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. So first favourite photo of the year was this one from January in New York, which I've probably shown on the channel a gazillion times by now. But the sky in this one is, I think, what I love most. It's so soft and ethereal, and I love how that plays with the sort of gritty nature of the rest of the scene. And on that, actually, that gritty nature, one of the themes I want to talk about that runs through many of these photos is imperfection, and the importance I place these days on imperfection in my photos. And years ago, there are many things in this photo that I'd have cloned out of it. Typically at the bottom here, you can see all these tread marks that you could definitely argue aren't particularly pretty. There's this patch of tarmac not covered in snow or ice over here. You could suggest that that looks distracting. And 10 years ago, I'd have been straight in Photoshop cleaning all this stuff up. These days, I think it's integral to how I want to work, because it's this stuff that makes photos feel more real to me, I think. And it's what stops photos like this just looking like advertising, basically. And I've spoken about this quite a bit on the channel. I think when I was talking about the concept of the fatigue of bright packaging, and things like tyre marks, you know, I think are a pretty good example of it, and will run as a theme through lots of the photos that I'm going to show. And yes, orange and blue, yellow and blue. Is that yellow or orange? I think those buses are well known to be yellow. We'll call it yellow. Red or orange? I know it to be red. Clutching at straws here, I think. Yeah. This was February in Antarctica. And again, this patch of ice on the left here. Years ago, I'd have got straight rid of that, and you could perfect this scene very, very easily. But I like the fact that it's not perfect, because there's enough that's sort of fairy tale about this photo without making the composition absolutely perfect as well. Same with this one. This was Patagonia in March, and you can see these windows that I was shooting through were filthy. I don't care. It adds grit to the photo, and I like it. And there's definitely blue and orange here. This one, blue and orange to a lesser extent. But one of the other things I've noticed about lots of my work is that I like to have a feeling of space. Like, it would have been very easy, had I had a longer lens, to frame the photo like that, for instance. And I think in many ways that's a completely legitimate thing to do. But you absolutely lose the sense of space compared to when it's like that. And so yeah, space in my work is something I really like, and therefore it's a good job that I'm not carrying a telephoto around with me. Because had I been at this scene, I'd have definitely ended up wanting to get the telephoto out. Blue and orange, some tyre marks, imperfections down here, and hopefully with this one as well, you also feel a sense of space. This was in Ireland in April, the last one was in Cornwall a few weeks beforehand, hundreds of miles apart, but they give me a similar feeling. As does this one, shot in Wales, hundreds of miles from Ireland. Very similar tones, gives me a very similar feeling. Same story from Spain in May, tyre marks, sense of space, blue, orange. June, here at home in Wales, blue, orange, sense of space. July, here in Wales, blue, orange, sense of space. I imagine you're starting to get the idea. This was the Faroe Islands. August in Svalbard, I love these grasses and how they stand out from the shadows behind them. And I love the little bits of grass in this shadow as well. Otherwise, blue, orange, sense of space. Not much blue in this one, but there is a sense of space, again in Svalbard. But there's blue in this one from Svalbard. And yeah, I could go through all of my favourite photos from the rest of the year. I love the relationship between blue and orange. I love to have a sense of space. And I love a feeling of imperfection because it gives some grit and some reality to the photo. And I imagine for lots of you, it will be completely different for your work. I imagine you'll have entirely different commonalities between your favourite photos. But finding those commonalities and working out what's the minimum amount of gear that you can get away with to shoot everything in those commonalities, I think is really valuable and gets rid of a lot of the choice paralysis, a lot of the and ahhing that can happen while you're out on location when you need to be concentrating on the scene, not what's in your bag. And that's been my biggest lesson over the past couple of years from using one camera, one lens. There is always something to shoot, and while it's worth making sure that you've got the right camera and lens combination for the kinds of things that you like to shoot, if you just have that, you will find things to shoot that suit your eye, I promise you. And it might not be the first thing you notice, but there will absolutely be something there for you if you spot something that you would have shot with another lens or at another focal length or with other gear. So yeah, I hope that was interesting or useful. Basically what I'm saying is sell all your gear. And should you want to do that, I know a place. Terrible segue. But this video is very kindly sponsored by MPB. And if you've done this, if you've gone through this process yourself and you've worked out that there is definitely gear that you don't use anything like enough and that you'd be better off cashing it in, then I think MPB is the place to do it. You can get rid of all the faff of selling your equipment, be it the negotiations, the insurance, the couriers, the disputes, the listing fees, because MPB makes it super simple to sell your gear. You can get a quote instantly online. If you're happy with that quote, MPB can arrange for a courier to come direct to your door. Once MPB receive your equipment, they'll assess it very quickly, and once they've confirmed your quote, if you're happy with it, they will send you the money very quickly. It's a super simple process, and I'm a giant fan. I've sold a huge amount of equipment to MPB, certainly over the past couple of years, as I've realised I don't really need much. And if there is something you need to buy, then MPB is also a fantastic place to buy it. You can save hundreds, if not thousands of pounds, dollars or euros. And so the next time you need to buy or sell, definitely check them out. They recirculate hundreds of thousands of pieces of kit every single year, and they've been integral to me throughout the course of this process of downsizing everything that I shoot with. So yeah, if you're looking to free up some cash or some headspace, definitely sell some gear. How long have we been going? Oh my word. I'll try and cut it down. See you next time.